your host today. Welcome to the Women Talk series 2023. It's a program that I've put together for you because I know that there is no roadmap for ageing. Many of us experience uncertainty as we search for meaning and purpose in this phase of our lives. And by this phase, I mean in our 50s, 60s and 70s. And that during this time of transition, most of us experience a range of emotions and thoughts during this time. There are a range of pathways and options available to us, and sometimes they're not very clear. We don't hear lots of stories of women over 50 and the journeys that they take. And so I'm on a mission to make sure that all of us have access to inspiring stories of women's journeys in life after 50. I'm also really interested in particular about this notion of transition. For me, transitions are moments of meaning-making moments in our lives where we sort through the things that have happened in our past and reorganize for the future that is the life ahead. So in bringing these stories to you and starting with our story today, I hope to inspire, but also demonstrate to you that transitions require skill. We need to acquire those skills and apply our knowledge to be able to master transitional periods in our lives. So I'll introduce you to Thea shortly. I want us to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we're meeting, which for me are the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. How this is going to work today is that I'm going to introduce Thea and she and I will talk together for about 30 minutes. And then I'm going to open the floor for questions. And you can ask questions in chat throughout the 30 minutes, and a wonderful Lacey will collect them up and make us aware of those in the question time. So don't feel like you have to hold out to the end, but we won't be taking questions during the main part of the interview. So so we aim to finish at 12:45, so you can get back to work and on with the rest of your day. So this really is just a snippet of wisdom and wonderfulness in the middle of your day on this Friday afternoon. So I want to start by introducing Thea, and she's going to talk to us about her late career decisions, is how I like to think about it. And Thea began her career as an art teacher, and sometimes artist is how she's described herself to me, and is now bookending that career, being an artist and sometimes teacher. And then in between those periods of time, the beginning and this phase now, there were 40 years where she did a whole range of other things in her career, including policy and program design and development, working in all levels of government and community settings. Thea retired at 67 and established a small arts business called Work in Progress Creative Practice. She's now 75 and loving life. And how she got to be where she is today is what we're going to talk about today. So Thea, welcome.
Thank you, Sue.
Thank you very much for agreeing to do this interview today. I wonder if you could, I know that your story about where you are now relates very much to the start of your career. So can you take us back to where it all began for you?
Oh, it all began, Sue, when I was a teacher, a secondary art craft teacher, and I began teaching at the tender age of 20, qualified, qualified, married, left teachers college, got married within 10 days of doing that. That was my destiny, then taught for about 10 years in a variety of schools, and then all of that went south. So I decided to do more study, ended the marriage, the study was much more generic. So, and there was a glut of teachers. I couldn't get back into teaching in the 70s. It's, you know, the demographics of the time meant there were fewer opportunities. So then I got into working with unemployed young people, and then into disability, and kind of everywhere I've been, I was doing the thing before there was a course that you had to get qualified for, as in community development course. Excuse me, my cat's just walked in the door, so she might contribute. I meant to shut the door. I'm sorry. So, yes, my career went from one thing to the other. I guess I was always looking for me and looking for my new thing. But through all of that, I've always had I call it a ferocious social justice commitment. So I'm working with people to make their lives more better, is how I put it.
I love that, more better.
And then I found myself swearing off local government, thinking I'll never do that. And then I found myself working in local government, and that's where I actually met you in the late 90s at Maribyrnong Council. And then all sorts of issues and all sorts of responsibilities, but kind of upper middle management. I was not ambitious enough to be, you know, running corporations, but I like running small organisations where you can be the benign dictator. I'm a bit keen on that. Anyway, my last job, my last piece of full-time work was working with Hobsons Bay City Council, and in the library environment. Whilst I love libraries, I didn't like the job. I wasn't right for it. It wasn't right for me. And I had a person very close to me die, and I didn't expect to feel the grief I felt. It just flatlined me. And at the same time, my daughter had an art exhibition, which I supported her to do. And part of her art exhibition, she ran a life drawing workshop, and I took part in it. And another friend who knew that I was feeling pretty blur said, why don't you come with me to the summer school at Sturt in New South Wales in January? It's a residential for a week in a posh girls' school. The girls are gone. Why don't we go and do that? And I looked it all up and thought, looks lovely. I can just walk and eat. I don't have to do anything. I'll just, you know, nurture my soul. But I found myself in this class of this extraordinary woman, this artist called Suzanne Archer. And within the first day, I was flying. I just loved it. I rediscovered my inner artist. My confidence came back. I didn't have anything to compare it with, my artist so long ago, that I just let myself relax and go into it. And
so Thea, can I ask, you described that the start of your career was in art and as an arts teacher. Had you continued to be creative over the time between then and when you did that art school?
Yeah, always, Sue. The one thing that I did at Hobsons Bay, where I was desperately unhappy, but was to support some social work students from RMIT to make a documentary on the LGBTIQ community who were missing out on whose stories weren't being captured and recorded as part of the community of the libraries. And these two young women were just absolutely awesome. And they found 80 people, selected 8 out of all of that, got a filmmaker, and Western Proud, or We Stand Proud, came out of that as a brilliant half-hour movie. And things changed. I mean, context is decisive. Everything was changing as well at the time. But and earlier than that, I was the key person setting up the first attendant care program in Victoria for people with disabilities. So they were either trying to get out of institutions or desperate not to go into them. This was in the 80s. Mm-hmm. And so I think one of the things there that I take with me into this new life career is getting the model right. Whatever you're doing, get it right, which means give yourself permission to make mistakes and don't do it on your own. Have the community you're working with owning it and working with you on it. So okay. I think.
So can you tell us around, I think that when you finished your the formal part of your career, you were about 67, and you described then that there was a loss in your life and your job came to an end. Can you tell us a little bit more about what was going on there and what kind of propelled you forward into the life that you have now?
Well, that summer school that I went to and gave myself permission to be just a complete fellow traveller on it, not necessarily participate, but I did participate, was a real pivotal point. I mean, my friends saw my life drawing in Davia's class, said, "Oh, you've got ability, come with me, we'll give this a bit of a fee." I liked that. That was the sort of gentle starting point. But the teacher that I had looked at my work and said, "Oh my God, you've got ability. You may not know new techniques, but whatever you do when you get home, do a course, have an exhibition, join a class, do something, don't stop."
And so what did you do with that feedback?
Okay, so the drive back to Melbourne from Mittagong, which is where the summer school was, Mary and I talked about what to do and where to go. And I thought, well, I'll do a certificate in visual arts. I had no clue what my level was. And by the time we'd got to Melbourne, I elected to chase up CAE because it was in Flinders Street and funky territory. You know, you're right in the heart of interesting places rather than the outflung TAFE colleges. So I took a folio of what I'd done during that week to them, and they said, "You could probably do diploma looking at your ability, but you probably benefit from the level below. Do some certificate 4 and you'll get a whole lot of new techniques," you know. So that's what I did. I just cherry picked my subjects. I didn't care less about the qualification. So I did that for a year. Oh, and went part-time at council when I was working at council. So I didn't stop. I reduced myself to half-time and was half-time at CAE, half-time working.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second half of the year, council expected me to go back full-time, and I went, "Oh, I can't do that. I've signed up for this course and paid money. Can't do that. I'll leave." No, don't do that. Take leave without pay. Keep your options open. So I did that for 6 months. And the other thing I did in that 6 months was find the Auspicious Arts Incubator, which is in South Melbourne. And that's a brilliant organisation that works with people wanting to set up an arts business.
Mm-hmm.
Has a different approach to setting up any other business. Mm-hmm. Probably similarities, but it was very specifically around people who wanted to set up arts businesses. That was a 12-week course online with a couple of days in residence at the end in December. So around that December time, I thought, I'm not ever going back to that place. I want to take this much further now. So I let them know that I wasn't coming back in January and I would resign. They very nicely, after I had done that, the woman from payroll, rang me and said, "If you change your resignation letter to retiring letter, you can get your long service leave," which I wasn't quite entitled to otherwise. So thank you very much. I did that. That just was a nice little bonus. Mm-hmm. And then I designed for myself a summer school like the one I'd been to, only it had 20 tutors and 200 people. I designed it for 20 people and a mate that I invited to help me. And we ran the first one at the Abbotsford Convent in January 2017. Mm-hmm. So by then I was 69. I would turn 70 later that year. And 20 people came. He did life drawing. He taught life drawing, and we used the buildings as subject matter, and we set up this beautiful open classroom. And I think the thing that I've always done is, I throw my hat over the wall. I'll give it a shot. But I'll also know in that process that I'm going to make mistakes, that it's, and permission to get something wrong and, review it and get feedback and so on.
Yeah, that's a really lovely quality, that learning forward, I think, is the expression that's sometimes used for that, which is adopting that learning mindset to give things a try, learn from them and keep going, rather than starting off with the idea that you have to know everything and do it right the first time, as you said earlier. So you sought some, you did some further studies as you described, and you connected with a business incubator. Who else did you seek guidance from, and what difference did that make to you at that time?
Can I just say, before I leave the incubator go, apart from learning how to do the finances and all of that stuff and marketing and things, I think the thing that I took away from that is, what's my product? What's my service?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a teacher who teaches watercolor painting or how to do portraits. I'm an art teacher and I created this little byline that was helping you, giving you the opportunity for a creative, what did I say? Sorry, I have to look it up. A juicy morsel of creative mindfulness. So for me, art is a very mindful, even mindless activity. So I like to work with people who go, didn't know I could do that. Oh, no, I can't do that. All the negative self-talk going on, and go out the door at the end of it going, oh my God, that was amazing. What's next? What can I do now? It's the feeling. Sounds a bit Toyota-ish, doesn't it? What's the feeling?
No.
But anyway, that's really what I think that I offer, an opportunity to find that creative essence in your soul through art. And that's where my early teaching comes in, because I do have a kit bag of skills and techniques, and I got more along the way from CAE.
Yeah.
So, a lot of learning, but joyful learning.
Yeah, I can hear that, and I can hear that those threads of your life have come through. There's the art and the creativity, but there's also the teacher in you that's coming forward. But the other thing I can hear is incredible interest in the experience of the people that you work with, and in the sense of unleashing creativity. Where does that come into your career story, do you think, before this phase?
I think it comes to the time when I was teaching in Gippsland at a place called Maryvale High School, which was set up in the state system, but to be an alternative school. It didn't have exams. It had, even in the late 60s, because I went there in 69, through to 75, it had a gender equity based curriculum. So I was teaching for a week, boys and girls taken out of a class, and they all made different things. They were making jeans and screen printing and spinning wool, and there was a guy from Psych and Guidance, as it was called in those days, who came to the school and walked in my room and said, gentle chaos. But it was okay. And I think that I've taken that, I'd learned a lot from that school experience. And that school doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Like most things I've done. But I retained that working with each individual at their own best rate kind of ethos. And so it comes to my art classes, wherever they're at, I try to be with them and then start them on a journey. Yeah.
So coming back to the decision making that you were making after you decided to retire and launch forward in your career, how did your family and friends react to the new direction that you took?
Oh, can I come to your class? Can I come to your class? When you that? Very supportive. They could just see the transformation in my happiness level.
Nice. And what did it mean for you to have that level of support around you?
Oh, it's incredibly affirming. And it meant that I had a whole lot of people that I could, ring up or have a coffee with or dinner with or whatever, and say, I tried this and this woman was disgusting. She just couldn't get it, and she was blah, 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 bit of aerating my not so great moments. the very first summer school, I had a woman who's stayed with me as a participant forever, but she'd come along, and at morning tea on the first morning, I walked out, she's a smidge older than me, to find her sobbing her eyes out on the doorstep at the building. I went, "What's wrong?" And she said, I'm deaf. I can't hear a thing you're saying. I'm going home. I can't. I mean, whoa, hang on a minute. You know, most of what I'm saying is just padding, and you just tune out and I'll come and tell you everything you need to know, and I'll move you so you can be near me. And yeah, you know, we talked about a few strategies. She was happy as Larry. She's just gone on to do her own thing. And
Yeah. So you're really bringing that teacher skill in, and as you said, learning as you went along. Where has all of that significant period of change landed you now at 75?
Oh, I've just had hip surgery. It's just taken me out of my practice and out of my happy place for the last, well, all of this year really so far. I've been more preoccupied with managing things than being creative. I'm getting back to it. But the hip surgery is really like, I've got to get this done because I've got a lot of life to live. I can't be going, oh my God, this is the end. And because I've got to have the other hip done within 12 months.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's just an annoying blip.
Yes. And before the hip replacement, tell us about your current teaching.
My current teaching?
Yeah.
Well, I teach 2 mornings a week at Brunswick Neighbourhood House. We just call the subject visual arts. It was called painting and drawing, which sounds exciting. And I just introduce them to all sorts of things. It's like a smorgasbord of printmaking and drawing and painting and life drawing, whatever. And then I run random workshops at my place. In my garage, it's a converted studio that you've seen.
Yes, I have. I've participated.
And that's like, it's like a classroom, like a shop. I've got materials. I'm a bit of like every artist, you know, we'd rather spend $80 on materials to make a card than go and buy one for $7, you know. It's much more fun.
Yeah.
Lots of materials. And then I do seasonal workshops with Michael or other people. I've had different colleagues I work with at the Abbotsford Convent, or we did some in a country hall outside Kyneton. We've done winter schools there.
Nice.
Other neighbourhood houses, the Handmakers Factory in Yarraville, I did a winter workshop with them 4 years ago. So yes, I like to, when the energy and the time is available, try to do it so it's a weekend and that people who are teachers can participate, because I've got a few colleagues who are.
It sounds like there's a lot going on there, Thea. And when you look back on that period of leaving the formal career, so being employed, I think it was by local government, and that sort of, then there was that kind of the middle part of deciding what you were going to do, doing some learning, etc. On your journey. When you think back on that time, what did you most learn about yourself from that time?
Selfish things, I think. Well, that's a good question. I never thought of being an artist. In the middle of those 40 years, never occurred to me I'd be an artist and an art teacher again. Never. I thought I might grow an apple orchard or something like that. I was thinking of doing something radically different to being in a bureaucracy, but I had no clue what it would be. And if I'd be on my own or doing it with other people. I think I'm a control freak. I do like to be the boss of what's going on. And if that's the ethos of the project or the organisation, I'm pretty adamant that I need to be all over that. Maybe I'm not good to work with. I'm not sure. I don't know. No,
Well, I wonder though, in terms of that transition towards the end of your career and into this new phase of being an artist and running your small business, what did it take to face that transition and get to the other side? You talked about a willingness to learn. What were some of the other things that that it required from you to transition successfully?
I think financial security is an important thing. Now, because I'd turned 67, I was already entitled to the pension. I could get it at 65. So I'm on the pension. So what I earn is limited. The more I earn, the less pension I get. I just don't want to lose it because there's some nice little things that go with it.
Yeah.
But I learned to live with less.
Yeah.
A simpler life. The more money I earn, the more I spend. I learned that early on. So the less that I have, the more I appreciate it. And I'll keep my cat away. I can see a pussycat. Yes, a more simple life, a life that I am more in control of. And I'm not sure what I don't want, but I know there are a lot of things I don't want. I don't love working in bureaucracies. I've worked with 4 different councils, local governments, and then when I was in the state government, I had 3 others that I was responsible for. So I'm kind of over that big time.
Yeah.
I love the intimacy, I think, of working with small groups.
Yeah.
And small groups who are hungry to learn and hungry to participate and share with each other. I like that a lot.
So for women who are themselves on a bit of a precipice of a a significant career change, what would your advice to them be?
I did have some counselling. Before I left council, I got a few psychology appointments through their employment assistance program. And that person encouraged me very much to take a leap of faith and get out. I'm ready to go, clearly done my time. I would suggest, now that I know my daughter and you are emerging coaches, that coaching would be a brilliant thing to have. That you need some sort of guidance with your thinking. I think the answers lie within us. I don't want someone to come in and say, why don't you go and, do woodwork or something. I just wanted to be unpacked, I guess, emotionally and creatively, and someone who could see not where I might go as a career, but what I might focus on, which are the things that I love doing. And I had, by that stage, done that workshop and had that woman, Suzanne Archer, say, you've got ability, use it.
Yeah.
So, that was, I think it's ducks in a row. I think that's the only way I can say it. When all the ducks are in a row, you jump in with them and waddle on. If they're all straying and straggly and, hurtling towards the precipice,
yeah.
Do it.
So it sounds like what you're saying is take some time to shore yourself up as for you, that was about having some reflection from others about where you were. It was about some self-reflection on what was going on for you and what you wanted to do next. Is there anything else in there, do you think, that you would like to share with others?
Well, only that, I didn't think I was setting myself up for a business that was going to make millions of dollars. I was setting myself up to have a future that would make me some money and pay for itself and make me happy.
Yeah.
It's a retiree's business.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, there were other people who'd say, you artists don't make any money. But the Auspicious Arts Incubator said, yes, you can. You just have to craft yourself the right way and take the right advice and give it a shot.
Yeah. And I love that what you've described there as well is a combination of some additional income, but doing something that brings you joy as well. And that's the combination of those things that you've brought together for yourself over the last 8 years.
And like I think I might have said to you, like once a teacher, always a teacher. So the teacher side of me needs to be kind of fulfilled as well, which is where
Yes.
the bit of money comes from. I mean, I sell my art, but I don't ferociously advertise it.
Yeah.
I give away more than I sell.
Yeah. Yeah. We need to wrap this up there and open up for questions. Before we do that, well, as we do that, Lacey, can I just check with you whether there are any questions that have come through? We've got about 10 minutes for questions.
No questions, but just a comment from Chloe here saying, as someone in her late 40s who is looking for a change in direction in her career, she appreciates your honesty and openness of your story, Thea. And she had to leave, but she's hoping to watch this later and watch the other ones. So.
Lovely, thank you. Well, I've got some questions, and if you have questions, please pop them in the chat and Lacey can let me know. But let me ask one for you, Thea, which is when you look back over your that sort of transition from 67 onwards, is there anything you would do differently?
It's an interesting question. It has evolved. Probably not. I mean, I could whip myself a bit more and be more active at selling my art, my own art. But frankly, I can't be bothered. I do exhibit and I do occasionally sell pieces, but there's no space left on my wall, so I should. I just have to keep reminding myself that this is my choice. I'm choosing to do this every day, even if I don't do anything. And I think, oh, I can do it. The pandemic was wonderful for that. I loved the pandemic. I loved lockdown. I could, I was on my own, do my art to my heart's content. Feel like it? Oh, it's always tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure that I would have, Sue. I love working with other people. I have friends, a friend at a time, come and have play dates with me. I just like to play with somebody else. I'm always much more productive with somebody else.
Yeah, yeah. And so another question is whether you've taken lessons from that time of transition and apply them in your life now. So you talked about that giving things a go. How is that playing out for you in your life now?
That's the perfect question for me, Sue, right now, because
Right.
I've had this last 3 or 4 months of being non-productive with my art and also not being able to teach at the neighbourhood houses all term one. I've got this navel gazing thing again. What's the next 10 years like? What's the next year like?
Yeah.
I really am assessing what I want to do, and maybe I stop doing that teaching at the neighbourhood houses and do more at my place, or do I find other ways to package what I offer people? I don't know, but it is absolutely front of mind right now. It's time to review. And I think that's about 7 years on, isn't it? So
Yeah.
timely.
Yes, this is the 7-year cycle. It's interesting. So transitions never end; they just come up sort of periodically, episodically in our lives. And so, how would you characterize the feelings associated with the point you're at now in terms of thinking about revisiting some of the ways that you're working?
I do a lot of writing to myself. I'll sit and reflect and find all my, notebooks from way back and so on, and think, what were the things that I really loved doing, and are they possible to do again or reinvent?
Mm-hmm.
Or is there something I haven't tried yet? you know, maybe I want to learn Thai cooking or something. I don't think so. No, I know my patch. I know what I want to stay in, my play pit. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah.
But where and how and with whom they're the questions. But they have to be asked. I think that's the point I'm making, that
Yes.
I don't hurt from one thing to another. I think about it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're saying very reflective.
Yeah. And who's watching me? Who's going to say, have you thought about doing blah, blah, you know, or remember when we did this together, how good that was? Do you want to try that?
Yeah.
And I'd forgotten completely, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. Lacey, are there questions?
Yes, we've got about 3 questions here. Gina would like to ask you a question, Thea, so I'd like to invite you to unmute your microphone there, Gina.
Thank you. Thanks, Sue, for organising this, and thank you so much, Thea, for sharing your story. It's really inspirational. I'm 59, and I'm, you know, I've got a job I really enjoy. I've got plenty of energy, but, you know, I'm looking ahead and thinking what would, you know, what's life like in 10, 20, 30 years? And I want to keep my energy up and my creativity. So it's really inspirational to hear from you. And I'm wondering, perhaps a question for both you, Thea and Sue. Do you find that when women have a later in life career change, it's often a creative pursuit?
Not creative, did you say?
That it is creative, yeah. That like I work in it has been over the years, a lot of my work is quite mundane and administrative, although, you know, some of it's quite creative. And the piece that's missing for me is that creativity. And I feel as I get older, I might have the courage, the time and the wisdom, perhaps some small wisdoms, to kind of follow where my heart leads me rather than my head.
I call that giving your brain a jiggle. You know?
Yeah, right.
It's about indulging both sides of your brain, and I use that a lot when you're doing fairly, well, you call it mundane work or administrative work. You don't indulge that, and we're all creative. Everybody's creative. It just gets killed in us at you know, the age of 9.
Yes.
3-year-olds creative. 3-year-old will play with their food and draw, and we put their pictures on the fridge and never criticise them. And they get to about 9, well, they get to school for starters. Then they get to about 9 where they're really receptive to others' observations and criticisms, and perhaps I'm not good at that, you know, I can't do that, and kills that part of you off, or certainly dampens it down. So, but we've all got it. But it's what it is that lights you up is the thing to explore, try things, shop around, you know.
And I would add to that there and just say what I heard you say, Gina, was something about finding out where your heart lives.
Yes.
And
yeah.
I think that's the perfect question to explore at this phase, is what does that mean for you? Where does your heart live? And it may be in creativity, it may be it takes you in another direction, but certainly the women that I work with are all going through that kind of discovery phase of, you know, what is it that really brings me joy, and questions of what do I need to shed as well, what do I need to leave behind to create space for what else I might bring into my life. And certainly that heart space, that heart joy and pleasure and an expansion of life is definitely the things that women are exploring for themselves. And
it might not be setting up a business. It might have nothing to do with that. You might need to do that. It might be joining a bridge club, or, you know, growing your own vegetables. Or, you know, I flippantly said I'd grow an apple orchard, but I don't eat fruit, so that.
We've got a couple of minutes left, so can I invite the next question, please?
Yes, please, Jeanette, if you'd like to unmute your microphone.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Thanks, Thea. That was really great hearing about the different things that you've done, and I'm sure once the medical stuff's out of the way, you'll be full on back into the creative side of things. my question is quite simple, actually, because I met a woman yesterday in a coffee shop who I went to school with, actually. And she said to me, "Oh, is it okay for me to finish work yet? I'm almost 60. And I said to her, "Well, you know, you don't need my permission, but, you know, what does work give you that you would miss if you, you know, stop doing it?" And so I guess my question to you is, what does your work give to you that you would miss if you stopped doing it?
Currently, what would I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd get fat. I'd eat. Walk. I'd be depressed. I'd watch telly all day long. I'd be a boring, boring, boring person, because I do have a very simple life. And I keep saying to my friends, gosh, I've got a small life. I don't go anywhere. I don't travel. Done that. You know, I'm a homebody. I love my home, and I live alone. I love that too. But that's not for everybody. It's horses for courses. It's the ducks in a row, I think. Yeah, I don't want to give up, Jeanette. If I stopped doing that, I'd have to replace it with something else that gave me people. This is my lament. I'm an only child. Tomorrow my dad would be 117 if he was alive. So I've got no parents. Yes, only child, no parents. My daughter is she's my significant other, and she's got about 8 ahead of me in the queue of significant others. You know, husband, children, cat, dog, blah, blah. So I can't rely on her. I can, and I do, but not for this. So being resourceful, you have to, you know, dig deep and find what your resources are, I think. And this is a very existential question you're asking me.
Well, what I'm hearing you say is that it's actually about connection. So creativity and connection is what it gives to you. And yeah, I think going back to Gina's kind of question, I think it is a bit of a common theme that as we get older, that we go more to the unfulfilled parts of ourselves. And, you know, that can often be the creative pursuits. And you've demonstrated beautifully, Thea, through your story, what, you know, how you've crafted this life for yourself now that really suits you. So I won't take up any more time because I think we're about to run out of time.
Yeah,
but thanks, Thea.
Thanks, Jeanette. We've got time for one more question, and then I'm going to do a bit of a wrap up.
Oh, good. I've just got one question here from Erin saying, thanks for your wisdom, Thea. Erin is interested in how you balance up the need for solitude in a creative pursuit with having some teamwork or community.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that question properly. It was very...
That's okay. I'll ask it again. So I am interested in how you balance up the need for solitude in a creative pursuit with having some teamwork or community.
How do I balance my creative work with something? I didn't catch that either.
Thea, I don't know if you can hear me clearly. It was about the balancing out some of the things in your life. So the need for connection, the need for solitude, the need for creativity versus other needs that you have, and how you balance out those needs.
Thanks for that, Sue. I do have to be rigorous with myself because I reckon I'm lazy. So I have to make myself go places, do things, not stay home all day long because it's so tempting. And if the world gets that small for me, then I might as well not be here. And that's stupid. That's just nuts. And I have to remember that there is so much more to be gained by being with other people on their journeys. I feel a bit like an elder now, you know, 75, 76 this year. These lines aren't all here from laughing, you know, it's... So I like to think that I can share stuff with people. Maybe I don't need to learn that much more. I have no idea about myself, but balancing things require thumbs up down here. More about a bit of self-talk, you know, if I'm indulging the, oh dearie me, I haven't done any art, I'm losing my mojo. I can feel it. I can feel not the mojo, not my ability. I know it's still there. But, oh, what will I do? Where to start? It's just begin it. Just do it. give myself permission to do, you know, 10 minutes. And
Mm.
3 hours later, I'm still there. It's that kind of thing.
So Thea, I can hear that you're really good at listening to yourself and then acting on the things that you're feeling, which really propels you forward. So that's a really lovely answer. Thank you. We do need to finish up, but before we do, I just want to thank Thea on behalf of all of us for sharing your story, which certainly resonates with me, in terms of all those threads of your life lead you to where you are now, and that there's some transitions, some moments that we go through, but you have all the resources that you need, looking for support, being really reflective on the things that are important to you, taking that time, lining up the ducks, as you said, to move forward. It's a really, really, really lovely story, Thea, and thank you for sharing that with us. I would like to invite you to join us again next week when we hear from Marie McPherson, who'll be sharing her story. And in the meantime, if you're in a phase of transition and you want support, you can work with me as your coach, one-on-one. I offer executive and life coaching. You can also join me for my one-day Mastering Transitions face-to-face workshop, or I also offer 2 online 3-month support programs. One is for women 2 years either side of retirement, and the other program is just for women generally in the ages of 50, 60 and 70 who are looking for support in to thrive in transitions. So if you'd like to work with me, you know where to find me, at flourishafter50.com.au. I'm Sue West, and I hope you can join me next week for more discussions, more women 50 plus talking. Thank you.